evening. This is the 4th episode of Mind Meanderings, and the 3rd and hopefully, did I say the 4th episode of Mind Meanderings, right? I did say the 4th. It is the 4th episode of Mind Meanderings, and hopefully the 3rd and last installment of Who Am I? I am sitting in my car outside of my house. It is January 22nd, yet again, 10:18 p.m. There's a stray cat that has claimed me since the day we moved in, almost 2 years ago, sitting on my side view mirror, staring into the window. So that's fun. So this episode is, like I said, hopefully can knock this out and finish up the introduction to what the show is and who I am, and move forward with the good stuff, with the sharing of those random thoughts and diving deeper into what those thoughts possibly mean as those thoughts arise. This is kind of like preliminary homework that I wanted to get out of the way before getting into what the show is actually going to be about. So the first installment of Who Am I kind of covered the spirituality. The second installment very briefly scratched the surface of childhood. I kind of got stuck on 2 memories, and that was about the end of that. So I'm gonna pick it up from there and try to bring us all the way to the present and see if we can make that happen. Okay, so like I said in the last episode, I have very few memories. It's kind of strange, and please chime in. Let me know if you. I seem to go through these identity crisis, or crazy, I guess you would say, because there are more than one for sure. I'll look in the mirror and it's like I don't know who I'm looking at, or if I think too hard about who I am as a person, or who I am in the world, or who I am to a particular person, or who I am to me, I can really kind of go down this weird spiral of unknowingness, and it's very unsettling, because it's almost like it's a question that I can't answer in most cases, and I feel like it should be a question that I can answer. So, and I think a reason for that is I have a very murky foundation to build off of. I try to remember things about my childhood, and I try to remember anything at all, and it's very hard to, one, hold on to memories, and 2, it's damn near impossible to remember them in any kind of correct chronological order that I could be confident of. It's just kind of scattered sparks of images, and at this point, it's I'm not even sure that the memories I have are real memories that actually represent things that actually took place, or are like implanted memories. Like if somebody maybe told me a story, or I saw something in a movie, or maybe, it was something that really took place, but it's not really something I remember. It's just a home video or a picture that I saw. So even, all the memories that I have, I'm not sure that they're real, and I'm not sure that I actually remember them. I just remember the documentation of them from somewhere. And maybe those are the only ones that I actually have held on to somehow. I'm very interested to know if anybody else experiences that, where a very murky memory, and two, if it affects their present day identity, as far as who you think you are, or if you really know who you are, or if you ever have feelings of wondering who you are. So that's the preface, I guess. I'm not really sure. It definitely ties into childhood biography, because I wouldn't want to go into that without warning you that I'm not very sure. It'd almost be like a historian with amnesia writing a history book and not alarming the reader to the fact that he has amnesia before they proceed with doing their essay based on his amnesiatic findings, I guess. Anyways, so my childhood was a good childhood, I guess you could say. I never felt like we didn't have enough. As I got older, I began to realize that, we weren't well off. My mom just did a really great job at being creative and never really... I ate mustard and cheese. It's one of my favorite sandwiches growing up. I didn't realize that it just wasn't. It was because we just didn't have enough money for lunch meat a lot of the times. But now it's one of my favorite sandwiches. I never really questioned it. But it was I don't remember ever wanting for anything. I was always fed, always had good clothes. I feel like there definitely had to be some major sacrifices made to allow those things to happen for me. Because I don't think we were definitely lower working class, I would say. So I grew up with mainly my brother Daniel, 5 years younger than me. In the 90s, 93 I believe it was. My mom and her new husband Glenn had their first child. We had a new brother, Tyler, who was actually 5 years younger than Dan. And we all got along very well as brothers. There wasn't that much sibling rivalry from what I can remember. A lot of the times we shared bedrooms and had a playroom. We preferred to kind of be around each other, from what I can remember. So there's that. We spent a lot of time in the woods growing up. We lived primarily in mobile home parks. My mom and Glenn, they were kind of superstar mobile home park managers, which put us in interesting positions. From like, if a park was really bad off, they'd send my mom and Glenn there. Like they were like a superstar management team that could turn any place around for the good. Great for them, but we ended up in some pretty. I never felt unsafe. It was just always very interesting. Always saw where we lived as very interesting places. One second here. Okay. Where in the hell was I? Let me pull down this window a little bit here. I'm going to go ahead and head up to the pilot. And, yes, I know. So back to, growing up. And all this is mainly once we have moved from Levittown, Pennsylvania to Jacksonville, Florida. We moved to Jacksonville, I believe it was 90 something. It was shortly before Tyler, my youngest brother, was born. Growing up in different mobile home parks, very interesting characters for sure. Not like stereotypes that you would find in movies and things like that. There are definitely those kinds of people for sure, but there's a wide variety of very special Trailer Park Boys on Netflix. Actually, they nail it pretty hard. The wide variety of class acts that you can find in most of your mobile home parks, and then there's the normal folk that don't bother anybody. You don't even know they're there, and they just keep to themselves. And but the characters are fucking characters. And that's what I grew up with. And it was, most mobile home parks were a very, multi-ethnic. There was. I wasn't ever. I don't think I was ever very sheltered. Before we moved to Florida, I remember living in apartments and things like that, and in a mobile home park. My mama Eleanor, on my mom's side, she lived in a mobile home park called Penwood Crossing. I think pretty much the whole time that I lived in Pennsylvania. I remember her living there. She was also a foster parent, so there was always different kids my age, or a little bit older, or a little bit younger, that would live with her for an extended period of time. So I got a lot of different experience because of those living situations. It kind of made me see the world through a lot of different eyes from a very young age. And everybody in my family, for the most part, is from what I've never witnessed, too much ignorance or anything like that as far as people that are not like you are concerned. Which is, I never, worried about bringing anybody over because of any reason. One thing that I love my family for is that the more diverse, the better. We've had, parties on our back porch with just all kinds of people together, and I love seeing that. Because something interesting in a good way always comes of it, if as long as there's some kind of common ground. But anyway, so back to the fuck. How the hell did I end up going down that road? Anyway, so childhood, it was good. Brothers, had a lot of step siblings from Glenn, and I've always heard stories of being crazy rivalries between brothers and stepbrothers and just step siblings in general. And we had a stepbrother, two stepbrothers, two stepsisters, Scott, Little Glenn, Tara, and Tiffany. Had a half sister from my dad's previous marriage, Nicole, and everybody got along very well. There was a few summers where everybody was together in Florida, and it was there was some of the best memories of my life. So for the most part, it was a very good childhood. There was this one creepy incident when I was shortly after we moved to Florida. We had to replace a door in the bedroom, my bedroom, and the door was. My mom and Glenn picked it up from Home Depot, and it had like a bull head, like something you would see in voodoo, like that shape of a bullhead skeleton. Wasn't even like carved into it or ingrained into it. It was like in the wood pattern, and it wasn't like if you look at it this way, or if you kind of like look at it that way, you can kind of see it, or different people see different things. It was like Mother Nature drew this detailed image into this wood. And they said that there was this really eerie encounter when they bought it at Home Depot, where somebody that didn't even work there walked up to them and said, don't bring that into your home, your whole family will get sick, or something like that. And so they they wanted to pick it up for me anyways, because they kind of blew that guy off, and they thought that I would appreciate it because I just kind of like dark things or whatever. And they put the door up, and everybody in the house was starting to get sick, and I had this really weird shit happen one night where I woke up in the middle of the night, and I was like at least 1 or 2 feet above the bed, and I felt this thing pulling me up, and I fell down as soon as I woke up and looked around. And I remember we took the door down. I believe we burned it. That was a creepy experience. I think I was 10 or 11, maybe 12 when that happened. That's the only supernatural encounter that I've ever had that I can recall. off the top of my head. I've had like 3 strange occurrences where I'll see a black bird flying, and it's always from the left to the right, and it like will swoop down and get so close that it totally blacks out my vision, and it feels like its wing is going through my brain, right through my eyes, like through that area, blacking out my vision and going right through my brain, and then I could see it going off to the right in my peripherals. That's happened to me 3 times. I don't know what it is. I can't explain it. I most of the time just kind of write it off as just like kind of like a glitch in my vision or something strange happening. I don't know, but other than that, that's the only kind of weird like supernatural things that have happened to me. But just to quickly wrap it up, I have. When I was 18, I moved out. Never did any drugs through high school or elementary school. I was always a pretty decent student. High school, I kind of stopped caring. I lost interest. I did the bare minimum to get by. I still walked away with a scholarship that I attempted to use in college, but went to a CCJ at the time, community college, and I just ended up sitting outside the classes writing poetry and things like that. I just couldn't force myself to sit down. If I could go back now, I probably would have a much greater appreciation for diving and just being expected to that being your main job is to be educated, to get educated. If I could go back to that would be I would definitely take more advantage of that, because I would love to just sit around and read history books and science books all day now. The time does not afford that. Shortly after I went to college, or left college before a year. I was living on my own. I started working when I was 16. I had a serious girlfriend out of high school. I've always had. I've had maybe 1, 2, 3, 4. I've had maybe like 4, 5 girlfriends in my whole lifetime, and I married the last one, who is also, I think, the 3rd one. I've never really been someone to go out to clubs, or every girl that I've ended up with, it's always started out as a friendship, usually meeting through school or doing a movie, or she stalks me at Hollywood Video where I work because I look like her favorite teen pop icon, and that's the one I married, by the way. Adeline, that is your mom. That's your mom. Where the fuck was I? When I moved out, I've never really lived on my own. I moved in with my girlfriend. We lived together for about 4 years. I left her for this girl that was in a movie I was doing at the time. Was very unhappy with the choice that I made almost immediately, but never really was a person to something happened to me at that point in my life. I think I was 22, 23, maybe, I stopped, I kind of became paralyzed. I stopped, I lost that, whatever steroid that your body and mind naturally produces as a teenager that just makes you go for it before you think about it, or before you overanalyze what the consequences or anything could be. I just I lost that in me, and I started overthinking things, and at the end of the day, I could never come up with this is what I should do. I'm sure of it. So I will do that. Never could. I would just overanalyze, overthink, and at the end of the day just say, well, I can't think of anything, so I will just sit here and let the world happen as it will. And that's what I did. And then I eventually, when you check out like that, resentment's gonna set in from the other end pretty quickly, which I'm sure it did. And there was cheating and all this other good stuff, and she we ended up, but that did not last long at all. And then I reconnected with one of my first real girlfriends that I had growing up. At that time, I was really looking for someone to remind me of who I was. I was really missing that person because I didn't know him anymore, and she knew that person, and she kind of reminded me of who that person was. Once I remembered who he was, I kind of hated him a little bit. But I think thanks to her, I found a somewhat happy medium in between what I was becoming and who I used to be. And that's where I'm at now. In 2014, towards the end of 2014, I was feeling extremely lost. Rounding over my 30s, I was at this place where I just had no idea what the hell the rest of life could be. Angela and I never wanted kids. We just kind of did our thing. I worked, and we would watch our TV shows and go out occasionally, and that was bitterly comfortable. And I should say that there was an incident when Angela and I first got together with her ex-boyfriend where he attempted to take my life and harm her enough to make it look like this was a random occurrence. He hired somebody to rob and stab me to death and rough her up a little bit, just enough to put her in the hospital, as a way to, we're talking about a rich daddy's boy who is used to getting what he wants his whole life, and he neglected a girl for a long time during their relationship. She left. She got with me. She had left him numerous times before for the same reason and for cheating on her. But I was, it was one of those things where her and I were meant to be together, and I just was never in a position where I was available previous times when she had left him, and it just so happened that this time I was, and he saw that she wasn't coming back this time and didn't know how to take that, so he was just going to take me out of the picture. We didn't even realize that this plan was hatched and unfolding around us for a week or two until a police officer knocked on our door on April 19th, 2012, I want to say. No, 2000. Oh shit! No, this was 2008. 2008, and told us that this was happening. And at that point, that really kind of broke something inside of us, and I feel like gave us a healthy paranoia. Neither of us are very comfortable going outside. We've since, figured out ways to cope and make it work, and I think we're getting better, but it's been a really rough road. And around 2014, I was really hitting rock bottom mentally with not knowing what the rest of life could possibly hold. I had no enthusiasm. I felt nothing for anything. I just felt like I had, pretty much already experienced it. And then we found out that we were going to have Adeline. And I call her my savior because she has made everything brand new. She's taken this mundane existence and just brought it to life all over again. She's now a little over a year old. She's 15 months old. She's born in September 2015, and it has been an adventure ever since. And the older she gets and the more that she can communicate, and the more that she can really experience and appreciate things, the more interesting it gets. So she kind of awakened me, and that's where I'm at now. There's a lot of details in between, I'm sure, but they'll come up, I'm sure, in future episodes as future topics are discussed. But I think that's good enough for kind of telling you who I am. Money has never been a friend of mine. Self-control has never been a friend of mine. Creativity is something that I crave on a regular basis. I'm a Leo. I don't really subscribe to astrology, but a lot of I can't deny a lot of the descriptions. I do enjoy attention. I'm very I try to be very self-aware. Trying to think of any last details that could throw out there to finish up that picture of who I am. I trust individuals by nature, and I distrust corporations by nature. A group of individuals, that's something's going on there. One person, very naive about. Everything I do in excess, which sometimes is a very good thing and sometimes is a very, very, very terrible thing. I really need to stop a lot of the things, like cigarettes. I used to be a hardcore conspiracy theorist. Now I'm just a lukewarm conspiracy theorist, which is to say I still think shit is going on. I just, I don't think there's any possible way that we could possibly know what that shit is. If the information is out there and available, it's obviously something that we are... any information that's available is misinformation, I would imagine. So, I stopped listening to Alex Jones. I am a libertarian, although I don't... If there was a Republican that said what I believed in, I would vote Republican. If there was a Democrat that said what I believed in, I would vote Democrat. At the end of the day, I don't really believe that our democracy is a true democracy and that our vote really counts. So I don't, I still go through the motions just in case it matters, because as you will come to find, I'm never 100% sure of anything. So I'll do my due diligence just in case that 1% of unsureness is turns out to be the case. And that's the episode for today. I think I'm just gonna end it there. Have a good night or a good day. Until next time, we will just be diving into thoughts from here on out. Just be diving into random thoughts. So let's see where it goes. Thanks for listening. Bye.